When you're working with fractions, there are a few key rules to keep in mind, but let's jump into a few problems. Let's start here with this addition problem. We can see that we have the same denominator for both of these fractions. So all we need to do is just go ahead and add across the top. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And then for addition and subtraction, we're going to keep that same denominator. So our denominator would be 5. All right, again, we have the same denominator, so we're all good there. We know that our denominator is going to be 8. Now all we need to do is go ahead and subtract across the top. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now with this one, you do want to make sure that you simplify if you can. This one, we can divide both 2 and 8 evenly by 2. And that's what you want to look for, is a number that you can divide both numerator and denominator by evenly. So 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. And then 8 divided by 2 gives us 4, so we have a final answer of 1/4. All right, let's look at our next addition problem. We see that we do not have common denominators for this one, so we want to choose a number that both 9 and 3 can go into evenly. So both 9 and 3 can go into 9 evenly. And I do have another video on finding the greatest common factor and lowest common multiple. Lowest common multiple would be what we just found here. 9 is the lowest multiple that both 9 and 3 have in common. But I do have a video on that, how to find those for bigger numbers. If you want to check that out, I'll link that in the description. But let's go ahead and finish this problem. Okay, so 9 and 9, we have the same denominator here, so that means our numerator is not going to change. But this one does change, so we have to figure out, what do we multiply 3 by to get 9? That would be 3. And then we need to multiply the numerator by that same number. So these two should be the same number. And basically we're just finding an equivalent fraction of 1/3 so that we have a 9 in the denominator. So 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/3 and 3/9 are equal to each other. All right, now we're ready to add because we have common denominator. So again, we're just going to add across the top. That gives us 8, and then we're going to keep the 9 as our denominator. All right, same thing with the subtraction problem that we have here. We don't have a common denominator, so we need to find one. So what is the lowest common multiple, or the smallest number that both 4 and 7 go into evenly? So in this case, it's just going to be 28. It's actually just 4 times 7. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes you can find a lower number that both of them can go into. But let's go ahead and find equivalent fractions for both of these. So let's start with our denominator. What would we have to multiply times 4 to get 28? That would be 7. So we want to multiply the numerator times 7 also. So 3 times 7 is 21. And then this one we would multiply times 4. And that means we would multiply the 4 times 4, which gives us 16. I have another video about the butterfly method on this, with adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So that's just a different method. It doesn't always use the lowest common multiple for the denominator, but it's a pretty good strategy. So we've got 28 for our denominator, and then 21 minus 16 gives us 5. So we get 5 over 28. All right, let's move on to some multiplication and division problems. So these have their own special set of rules. You do not need to have a common denominator when you're multiplying or dividing fractions. However, you do want them to be in either proper or improper fractional form. So meaning if you have a mixed number like we do in this multiplication problem, or a whole number like we do in this division problem, you want to turn those into improper fractions. But let's get started. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. So 4 times 2 gives us 8, and then 5 times 3 gives us 15. We can't simplify this any, so we just get 8/15 for this first problem. All right, so here, like I said, we want to change this this mixed number into an improper fraction. So the 3/7 is just going to stay as is. And then to change it into an improper fraction, we want to start with the denominator and multiply times the whole number. So 9 times 1 is 9. And then we're going to add the numerator. So 9 plus 5 gives us 14. And that's our new numerator. And then we're going to keep the same denominator. All right, so something to notice here is that we can do some cross canceling. Now you could just go ahead and multiply 3 times 14 and get whatever that numerator is, and then 7 times 9 and get that denominator. However, you can make this a lot easier on yourself by just cross canceling. So what I mean by that, 3 and 9, we're going to look diagonally. What can go into 3 and 9 evenly? That's 3. So 3 can go into 3 one time. 3 can go into 9 3 times. And then we can cross cancel this way too. So 7 and 14. 7 can go into both of these evenly. So 7 can go into 7 one time. And 7 can go into 14 two times. So now what we've got is 1 times 2 and 1 times 3, which is a lot easier to multiply than 3 and 14 and 7 and 9. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. So we get our answer there. All right, now let's look at some division problems. So with division, a lot of students that I work with, they use this keep, change, flip kind of mnemonic to help them remember what to do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep this first fraction. We're going to change that division sign into a multiplication sign, and we're going to flip this second fraction. You always want to flip the second fraction, not the first fraction. Okay, it's always the second one. So now that we've changed this into a multiplication problem, we can do some cross canceling for this one. So 2 can go into both of these, 2 can go into this once, 2 can go into 4 twice, and now we can multiply across. All right. By the way, I am creating a pre-algebra series. This is the first video in that pre-algebra series. So if you have a student in pre-algebra, I encourage you to look at the description. I've got some links for some other videos for you that are going to basically cover the entire school year. All right, let's do this last problem. We've got 2 1/3 divided by 7. So we've got a mixed number and a whole number. So we want to change both of those into improper fractions. So again, we're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. That's 6. And then we're going to add the numerator. That's 7 thirds. And then we're going to make this whole number into a fraction by putting 7 over 1. Okay, it's still a division problem, so we do need to do the keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep 7 thirds. I'm going to change that to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. We can do some cross canceling. So 7 goes into 7 once, 7 goes into 7 once. So that makes it a little bit easier for us to go ahead and multiply. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 3 is 3. So there you go. There's your quick review of all of the operations with fractions. If you enjoyed this video, please like and also subscribe. That really helps me to continue making these math videos for you. And I'll see you next time.